you're staring at your phone. It's like 2.14 in the morning.
The absolute worst time to be awake.
Right. Yeah. The glow of the screen is just, practically burning your retinas, but you literally can't look away because they read your message 4 hours ago. 4 hours.
Oh, brutal.
And your brain is just absolutely sprinting. Right. Running 1,000 complex calculations a minute, just desperately trying to figure out what you did wrong.
Yeah, the spiraling.
Exactly, the spiral. You're like, did I use too many emojis? Did I sound too eager? Was I not funny enough? And you reread the entire thread for, I don't know, the 5th time, just searching for that exact moment where the vibe shifted. We have all been completely paralyzed in that exact moment.
Yeah.
It's so exhausting.
It's a visceral kind of exhaustion, isn't it? Like, it's not just emotional. It feels deeply physiological.
100%. My stomach actually dropped.
Right. Because in that moment, your brain is treating a delayed text message like a literal survival threat. I mean, we are trying to navigate one of the most complex frameworks in human existence, which is interpersonal connection, using a brain that still heavily relies on, like, prehistoric alarm systems.
That is exactly what we're dismantling today. So welcome to this deep dive. If you are listening to this right now and you're feeling a little bruised by the modern dating scene or, just feeling lost in your own head trying to figure out who you are in the right place.
Absolutely.
We are going straight into the deep end of human connection today. The sources we've got stacked up for this are honestly fascinating. We're looking at personal discovery, how to actually have a relationship that doesn't feel like, psychological warfare, and how to improve the connections you already have.
Yeah, we're really looking at the foundational mechanics here, like how we connect, why we disconnect, and why we let things get so incredibly, needlessly complicated.
So complicated.
Because the complexity is really the crux of the issue, right? We tend to treat dating and friendships and self-discovery as these discrete, separate categories.
Like they're in different boxes.
Exactly. But the reality we uncover when we really analyze the sources and the mechanics of human behavior is that these are deeply interconnected ecosystems.
Right.
You cannot build a healthy romantic relationship if your fundamental sense of self is built on a performance and all cascades from the top down.
It really does. And the biggest barrier to that foundational sense of self, the thing that just absolutely annihilates our identity before we even get out the door, is our obsession with people pleasing.
Oh, yeah.
We hear that term thrown around all the time, right? Like, oh, I'm such a people pleaser. But when you look at the underlying psychology from our sources, it's not just about being, quote unquote, too nice.
No, not at all.
It's a literal erosion of the self.
It is the systemic dismantling of your own boundaries. Think about the concept of the social chameleon, or what the material sometimes refers to as the performative jester.
The performative jester. Yeah, I love that term.
Right. This is the person who subconsciously or even consciously just alters their entire personality depending on the room they just walked into.
Oh man, I've seen this play out so many times. Like, you're with friend group A and maybe they're a bit more cynical, a bit more edgy, and suddenly, your sense of humor shifts to match them.
You get a little sarcastic.
Yeah. Then you go meet up with friend group B, who are incredibly earnest and outdoorsy, and your entire vocabulary changes. You agree with opinions you don't actually hold. You pretend to like music you secretly hate.
You're just mirroring.
Exactly. By the time you get to friend group C, you're a completely different entity. You're constantly running this background program in your head, asking, who do I need to be right now so these people don't reject me?
And the cognitive load of running that background program is just staggering. It's exhausting. But we have to ask why we do this. Why do we put ourselves through that mental gymnastics?
Right, because it doesn't seem logical.
It doesn't, but it comes down to evolutionary biology. We didn't evolve in isolated apartments with grocery delivery.
No, we definitely didn't.
We evolved in tightly knit nomadic tribes. And in that prehistoric environment, fitting in wasn't just about, social comfort. If the group decided you were annoying or abrasive or just too different, they exiled you.
And exile meant?
Being exiled to the savannah alone meant a guaranteed physical death. You starved or you were eaten.
So when someone rolls their eyes at my outfit today or disagrees with my taste in movies, my brain isn't just saying, oh, that's slightly embarrassing. My amygdala is literally firing a signal that says, hey, We are going to die in the wilderness.
Precisely. That is exactly it. The brain processes social pain and physical pain using overlapping neural pathways. So that drop you feel in your stomach when you're mocked or excluded, that's a biological alarm bell. The problem is that our environment has evolved exponentially faster than our neurobiology. Today, if you voice an unpopular opinion at a dinner party, you aren't going to be left to fend off predators. You'll just have an awkward cab ride home.
Right, the stakes are so much lower.
But the primitive part of the brain doesn't know the difference. The ancient fear of physical death has merely morphed into the modern terror of social judgment.
That context makes it so much easier to understand why it's so hard for people to just say no. Because to our brains, saying no feels like jumping out of an airplane without a parachute.
It feels lethal.
Yeah. And there's this one incredibly devastating anecdote from the sources that perfectly captures the modern consequence of this biological glitch. It involves a county fair.
Ah, yes. The compounding cost of the inability to set a boundary.
Exactly. So picture this, right? A young adult, incredibly anxious about their social standing, brings $200 of their own hard-earned money to a local county fair.
$200 is a lot for a young person.
It's a ton.
Yeah.
And they're hanging out with this sprawling group of maybe 15 acquaintances. Like, not deep, lifelong friends. Just peripheral people. Co-workers, friends of friends.
The exact people you want to impress the most when you're insecure.
Right. So throughout the night, someone says, hey, can you spot me for this carnival game? And the anxiety spikes. The brain says, comply or die. So they say, sure.
Just a few bucks, right?
And then it's, oh, can you grab me a lemonade? It's only $7.
They are essentially paying a tax to exist in that social space.
A massive tax. They go from person to person, handing over cash, because the sheer terror of saying the word no and risking a slightly awkward interaction is just too much to bear.
It's easier to pay than to face the amygdala spike.
Exactly. So they get to the end of the night, physically exhausted from the performance of being the generous, chill person, right? They open their wallet and there's exactly $5 left out of 200.
Heartbreaking.
They can't even afford to buy themselves a single lemonade. But here is the absolute kicker, the part that just makes your stomach turn. Later that night, they see a leaked screenshot from a group chat.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Those exact same acquaintances, the ones drinking the lemonade they paid for, are mocking them. They are bragging to each other about how easily they played this person.
It's a tragic scenario. It really is. But it flawlessly illustrates the paradox of people-pleasing. You compromise your own resources, your money, your time, your emotional energy, under the assumption that this sacrifice will buy you respect and inclusion.
Right, it's like a transaction in your head.
Exactly. But subservience does not breed respect. It breeds contempt.
Wait, let's really unpack that. Why does it breed contempt instead of gratitude?
Yep.
Like, if I'm giving you free stuff, shouldn't you like me more?
You would think so, logically. But human social dynamics are highly attuned to power and authenticity. When you lack boundaries, when you consistently demonstrate that you value someone else's minor convenience over your own fundamental needs, you signal a profoundly low self-worth. And people subconsciously pick up on that. The group at the fair didn't see a generous friend. They saw an exploitable resource. They mocked the person because, on some level, we are repelled by a complete lack of self-advocacy. You attract people who only value what you can do for them, not who you actually are.
That is incredibly dark. But it makes so much sense. It's not just about the money, it's about the dynamic you establish right from the start. And, this plays out emotionally too. There's a specific psychological archetype from the sources that suffers from this immensely, the quote-unquote strong friend.
Yeah.
The pillar of the social group.
Right, the person who just holds everything together without ever making a sound. They are the designated therapist. If a friend goes through a breakup at 3 a.m., they're awake, answering phone, dispensing perfect advice. They crack a joke when the tension in the room gets too heavy. But what nobody sees is the incredible isolation of that role.
Because the danger of being the strong friend is that you inadvertently train the people around you to view you as unbreakable.
Yeah, you curate this image. You curate this image of absolute competence and emotional invulnerability. And over time, a very toxic lesson takes root. You realize that people rely on your strength, which means showing your own pain feels like a betrayal of your role.
I've talked to people who live this dynamic, and they describe the literal physical sensation of, like, swallowing a cry mid-sentence because they don't want to burden someone else.
It's visceral.
It is. They carry everyone's emotional baggage, but when their own life is falling apart, they feel like they don't have permission to shatter. Because if the pillar crumbles, the whole roof caves in.
And that repression has a profound cost. Swallowed emotions don't just vanish, they manifest as somatic symptoms. They turn into chronic fatigue, unexplained anxiety, a low-grade hum of resentment that you can't quite pinpoint.
You just feel heavy all the time.
Exactly. When you are constantly performing the role of the invincible anchor, you start to feel like an imposter in your own life. You know these people love the utility you provide, but you have no idea if they would still love you if you were messy or needy or broken.
So how do you break the habit? Because telling a chronic people pleaser or a strong friend to just stop is completely useless.
Oh, completely. You don't just stop. You have to actively build tolerance for the discomfort of others.
Tolerance for their discomfort.
Yes. If you are the strong friend, breaking the habit means letting someone else's problem remain their problem for an evening. It means saying, I love you, but I don't have the emotional bandwidth to talk about this tonight. It requires the willingness to let someone be temporarily disappointed in you.
Wow. Tolerance for disappointment. That is a massive paradigm shift. And I think it perfectly bridges into the ultimate antidote to this whole performative lifestyle, which is embracing your weirdness.
Yeah, the weirdness.
Now, I want to be really careful with how we define weird here, because pop culture has sort of, hijacked that word.
It definitely has. It's become somewhat commodified. It often gets confused with performative eccentricity.
Exactly. Being weird, in the context of genuine personal discovery, does not mean dyeing your hair neon green and wearing a meat dress to the grocery store just to get a reaction.
No, not at all.
Doing things for shock value is just another form of being controlled by other people's perceptions. You're still letting the audience dictate your behavior. You're just aiming for outrage instead of approval. True weirdness is much quieter.
It's internal.
Yeah. It simply means having your own adulterated interests, your own incredibly specific hobbies, and your own opinions, and absolutely refusing to apologize for them.
It is the radical act of unapologetic authenticity. If your deep passion is, painting microscopic details on miniature historical figurines for 6 hours a day, that is your weirdness.
Or if you genuinely prefer staying home and watching a dense documentary about soil ecology over going to a loud nightclub, that is your weirdness.
Exactly. And the brilliance of leaning into that specific quiet weirdness is that it actually creates opportunity. Well, being normal, trying to smooth out all your edges so you fit perfectly into whatever mold society hands you, is the fastest way to become completely invisible. You become a generic product on a crowded shelf. True confidence isn't walking into a room full of strangers and thinking, I am going to make every single person in here like me.
That's actually a manifestation of deep insecurity.
Exactly. True confidence is walking into that room and knowing, I honestly don't care if they don't like me. I am entirely secure in who I am, and I am going to do my thing anyway.
But I'm going to push back here a little bit. I anticipate a valid point of friction for you listening right now. Given everything we just discussed about evolutionary biology, about the amygdala screaming that social rejection equals death, how does a person actually cross that chasm? You can't just flip a switch and override a million years of neurological hardwiring.
It's a very fair point.
Because I was just thinking about an analogy for this. Think of an original photograph, right? Crisp, sharp, highly defined. Now, if you spend your life trying to mimic the people around you, you essentially put that photo in a copier.
Okay, I see where you're going.
The first copy is okay, maybe a little grainy, but then you change friend groups and you try to mimic them. So you put the copy back into the machine and make a copy of the copy. By the time you're 25 years old, after years of people-pleasing, the picture is just a gray, blurry smear. You don't even remember what the original shapes were.
That's a great visual.
Right. So how does a person find their original shape again when they are terrified of being rejected for it?
It requires a strategic and gradual desensitization. You do not start by declaring your most controversial, deeply held beliefs to a room full of strangers. That would just spike the amygdala too much.
Right, that's just panic.
You start with micro-disclosures. You find the 1 or 2 people in your life who have proven themselves to be relatively safe. The next time they ask where you want to go for dinner, instead of saying, oh, I don't care, wherever you want, you state a firm preference.
Like, I actually really want sushi tonight.
Precisely. It sounds trivially small, but for a chronic people pleaser, it is a monumental neurological victory. You state a preference, The world does not end, the tribe does not exile you, and your brain logs that data point.
It learns.
Yes, the amygdala learns we asserted ourselves and we survived. You slowly build the scaffolding of your identity back up through these tiny acts of defiance against the instinct to conform.
And as you slowly reclaim that original crisp photograph of who you are, you inevitably have to take that person out into the real world, which is where things get incredibly complicated because we have to talk about the absolute maze of modern dating.
Oh, the maze.
We are looking squarely at the landscape of romance today in 2025, and let me tell you, it is a chaotic, heavily armed territory.
It is a landscape that has been radically terraformed by the digital age, and certainly not necessarily for the better.
That is an understatement.
Yeah.
We are living in an era where the concept of connection has been completely warped by the algorithmic feed.
Yeah.
Young people getting their entire romantic education from 15-second TikToks. And the discourse is dominated by these internet relationship coaches who are actively pushing what they call dark psychology.
It is deeply concerning. These influencers are packaging manipulation tactics, rigid alpha and beta dominance theories, and gamified social strategies, and they're selling them as the ultimate key to human intimacy.
But why does it sell so well? Like, why are millions of people viewing content on how to manipulate a text message response or how to, quote unquote, gaslight someone into being obsessed with them?
Because true intimacy is inherently terrifying.
Yeah.
It requires complete vulnerability. It requires looking at another person and saying, here are all my flaws, here's my authentic, weird self, please don't hurt me. The human ego hates that level of exposure.
It wants to protect itself.
Exactly. Dark psychology and manipulation tactics are incredibly seductive because they offer a false sense of control in a domain that is fundamentally uncontrollable. They promise the reward of love and attention without the risk of vulnerability.
So people study these hacks, right? They go out into the real world and they treat a casual Tuesday night coffee date like a high-stakes corporate negotiation, or worse, a psychological military campaign.
They're running a script.
They literally sit across from someone and they're thinking, okay, I have to wait exactly 45 minutes to text back to establish dominance. I need to employ negative framing to make them seek my approval. It is absolute madness. They completely lose sight of the foundational reality of dating, which is that it is literally just two human beings sitting in a room, drinking a beverage, trying to figure out if they genuinely enjoy the sound of each other's voice.
But when you gamify human connection like that, you guarantee your own isolation. Even if the tactics work, and sometimes they do temporarily, and you secure the person's attention, you haven't actually connected with them.
Right, because they don't know you.
They are obsessed with the avatar you created, the tactical performance, and you are left trapped inside a maze of your own making, completely exhausted by the effort of maintaining the illusion.
And this gamification breeds so much unnecessary toxic hostility between people. There was a massive cultural flare-up recently in the sources that perfectly illustrates how poisoned the discourse has become. It revolves around financial division and this new internet consult, the Princessa.
Ah, yes, the controversy over equitable contribution. It was quite revealing.
Very revealing. So an influencer posted what was honestly a very boring, highly logical breakdown of how they handle living expenses with their partner. The argument was simple. A strict 50-50 split is actually deeply unfair if there's a massive income disparity.
Right, basic math.
Yeah. If I make $100K a year and you make $40K, splitting a $2,000 rent right down the middle leaves you completely impoverished while I have massive disposable income. So the suggestion was to divide bills proportionally based on income percentages.
It is a fundamentally equitable approach designed to ensure both partners maintain a comparable standard of living and financial security. It treats the relationship as a cooperative socioeconomic unit.
Right, it's practical teamwork. But the internet response was a bloodbath. It was incredibly toxic. You saw droves of young adults, we were talking 17 to 22 years old, viciously attacking the concept. Women were deploying the term princesos, which is this derogatory slur, basically calling men weak, delicate princesses, simply because the man suggested he shouldn't automatically pay 100% of every single bill.
And the retaliation was just as swift.
Oh, absolutely. Men were immediately branding women as gold diggers and parasites for expecting any level of financial support.
The irony here is just thick. You have a generation that prides itself on deconstructing societal norms, suddenly resurrecting the most rigid, archaic gender roles imaginable the moment financial responsibility is on the table.
Exactly. It's like, I want modern independence, but 1950s financial patronage. Why does this happen? Why are teenagers and college students so obsessed with who pays the electric bill?
It largely stems from deep economic anxiety. When a demographic feels financially insecure, when homeownership seems impossible, when debt is high, romantic relationships often become subconsciously commodified.
Ah, that makes sense.
People start looking for a partner not as a teammate, but as an economic life raft or a status symbol. They demand a fully formed, fully funded adult because they are terrified of the struggle of building a life from scratch.
But looking at a relationship as a sponsorship completely destroys the foundation of what a partnership is supposed to be. A healthy relationship is designed to improve the quality of life for both people. If you want to treat someone, great. If you have the means and desire to pay for everything, beautiful. But the moment it becomes an unyielding gender-based obligation, you stop being partners and you become a vendor and a client.
And that is a miserable way to live. This entire toxic ecosystem, the dark psychology, the financial weaponization, the constant performance makes dating seem like an impossible, miserable chore. But there is a massive paradigm shift available to us in the sources, a counter-narrative that completely cuts through the noise.
And it's shockingly simple. The core argument here is that if you strip away the algorithms and the societal expectations, dating is actually remarkably easy.
The difficulty is almost entirely artificially generated.
Right. We overcomplicate it. We think we need perfectly rehearsed pickup lines, or the ultimate conversational gambit, or a flawlessly curated aesthetic. But the raw truth of the matter is that dating is literally just the exact same process as making a friend, simply with the possibility of physical and romantic intimacy layered on top. That's it.
It's the same skill set.
If you have ever successfully made a friend in your life, if you know how to ask questions, listen, find a shared interest, and be relatively kind, you already possess the exact skill set required to date.
This reframing is critical because it dismantles the pressure. When you treat a date like a performance, you are in a constant state of evaluation. Am I impressing them? Are my tactics working? But when you treat it like making a friend, your focus shifts outward to mutual discovery. Do I actually like this person? Do we laugh at the same things?
But I'm going to challenge this because I can hear the collective groan of a million single people listening right now. The whole, just be yourself, dating is just making friends, let it flow naturally. Advice has been the dominant narrative in self-help for decades.
Yes, it has.
And yet, statistically, people are reporting record high levels of loneliness, isolation, and romantic frustration. If the solution is so painfully simple, why is everybody still struggling so much?
Because the advice is conceptually simple, but emotionally excruciating to execute. It requires you to completely redefine your relationship with rejection.
Okay, redefine rejection.
In the gamified version of dating, rejection is deeply personal. It means you weren't attractive enough, or your opening line was weak. It feels like an indictment of your fundamental worth.
Let me bring in a really specific analogy here to help visualize this for you listening. Think about the process of making a niche YouTube video. Let's say you spend a month meticulously researching and editing a brilliant 45-minute documentary about the history of brutalist architecture in Eastern Europe.
A highly specific offering.
Extremely specific. It is a masterpiece. You upload it to the algorithm. Now, someone scrolling on their phone clicks on your video. They watch for exactly 4 seconds, realize it's not a highlight reel of basketball dunks, and they immediately click away.
Right.
Does that rapid rejection mean your video is garbage? Does it mean you are a terrible creator? No. It simply means that specific viewer was looking for basketball, and you handed them concrete buildings. The rejection has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of the video and everything to do with a mismatch of desires.
That is an incredibly liberating way to view dating. When you show up as your authentic, weird self and someone rejects you, it is not a referendum on your value as a human being. It is simply the algorithm of human connection functioning perfectly. It is a massive time saver.
Because the puzzle piece is not fitting.
Exactly. You do not want to spend months trying to shave off your own edges just to force a fit with a puzzle piece that was designed for a different picture. Rejection, when viewed clearly, is the mechanism that frees you up to go find the person who is actively searching for exactly what you naturally provide.
But even when you adopt that healthy mindset, right? Even when you let rejection slide off you like water off a duck's back, you are inevitably going to collide with a dynamic that absolutely shatters your peace of mind.
The mixed signals.
Yes, you are going to enter the territory of mixed signals, which brings us to the psychological meat grinder of unrequited feelings and asymmetrical interest.
The human brain's absolute least favorite environment. Ambiguity.
Ambiguity is torture. And modern communication technology has essentially weaponized ambiguity. Let's go back to that scenario we touched on at the very beginning of the deep dive, the 2 a.m. texting dynamic.
The inconsistency loop.
Yes. You meet someone and the initial connection is electric. You stay up late texting and it's not forced. The conversation flows effortlessly from deep philosophical topics to like stupid memes. They're engaged, they're asking follow-up questions, the rhythm is perfect. You finally go to sleep feeling that incredible rush of dopamine, thinking, okay, this is real, this is going somewhere. And then the sun comes up.
And the baseline reality shifts.
Completely shifts. You send a casual text around noon, hey, hope your day's going well, and think nothing. Hours go by. You see them watching your social media stories, so you know they have their phone in their hand, but they don't reply to you. And when they finally do text back at 8 p.m., it's a dry 2-word answer. Yeah, you too. It is the exact same person, but the energy is entirely unrecognizable.
What happens next is a very predictable and very destructive cognitive cascade. The inconsistency creates a massive gap in your understanding of reality. Your brain abhors a vacuum, so it immediately attempts to fill that gap with an explanation.
And we usually blame ourselves.
Because we're naturally egocentric creatures, the explanation we usually land on is self-blame. You start dissecting your own behavior. Did I come on too strong? Was my text too boring?
You try to build a logical bridge between the person who couldn't get enough of you at 2 a.m. and the person who can barely acknowledge your existence at 2 p.m. It drives you insane because there is no logical bridge.
The mechanism at play here is actually identical to what makes slot machines so addictive. It's called variable ratio reinforcement.
Variable ratio reinforcement.
Yes. If a slot machine paid out every single time, it would be a transaction, not a game, and you'd eventually get bored. If it never paid out, you'd walk away. But because it pays out unpredictably, because you never know if the next pull of the lever is going to yield the jackpot, you stay glued to the seat.
Oh, wow. So when someone gives us mixed signals, they are turning themselves into a biological slot machine.
Precisely. The deep late-night conversation is the jackpot. The days of dry, indifferent texting are the losing pulls. Your brain becomes addicted to the unpredictability. You tolerate the neglect because you are constantly chasing the high of that one good interaction.
But we have to break that addiction. And there is a rule from the material, a mantra really, that cuts right through the fog of mixed signals. If there is one thing you write down from this entire deep dive, it should be this. Consistency is clarity.
It is the ultimate diagnostic tool for human behavior.
If someone genuinely wants to be in your life, you will not feel perpetually confused about your standing with them. Deep, genuine interest does not disguise itself that effectively. If you're constantly exhausted trying to decode their actions, the message is actually staring you right in the face. They're not fully invested. Inconsistent behavior is a clear answer.
Accepting that answer, however, requires confronting a significant amount of grief. Because when you finally decide to walk away from that inconsistency, you aren't just losing the potential of a romantic partner, you are undergoing a structural loss. This brings us to the anatomy of heartbreak, which is far more physiological than we usually acknowledge.
Let's dive into that. Because heartbreak is always portrayed as purely emotional, right? Crying to sad music, looking at old photos. But the reality is that your brain has built a literal infrastructure around this person.
It's about neuroplasticity and habituation. When you integrate someone into your life, your brain wires specific neural pathways associated with them.
It's the routine. It's the specific vibration of your phone that you've subconsciously associated with their name. It's the automatic habit of reaching for your phone the second you wake up because you know there's a good morning text waiting. It's the rhythm of your Tuesday evenings, which used to be dedicated to FaceTiming them. When they are suddenly gone, those neural pathways don't just disappear, they fire, anticipating the reward, and hit a dead end.
It's akin to phantom limb syndrome. The structure of your day is completely destabilized. Your body is literally going through chemical withdrawal from the dopamine and oxytocin that their predictable presence provided.
And this physiological withdrawal is exactly why Let's Stay Friends trap is so incredibly dangerous.
It is arguably one of the most self-destructive compromises a person can make after a breakup.
Why do we do it though? Someone breaks your heart, they explicitly tell you they do not want to be with you romantically anymore, and yet you say, okay, but we can still be best friends.
Yeah. We do it because the brain is desperately trying to mitigate the severity of the withdrawal. The transition from the most important person in my life to a stranger is too abrupt, too painful. So we attempt to downgrade the relationship to a friendship to preserve the routine. We still want to text them when something funny happens. We still want access to their comfort.
But the danger is that it's completely asymmetrical. You are prioritizing the emotional needs of someone who has already demonstrated they will not prioritize yours. You are staying in their orbit, readily accessible, while they get to move on with their life.
Yes.
It prevents you from doing the necessary, agonizing work of starving those old neural pathways and building a new life where you are the center of your own routine.
You are living in the ruins of a burned-down house, pretending the roof is still intact. And speaking of the coping mechanisms we use to avoid facing our own voids, we need to examine a deeply misunderstood signal our bodies give us, which is lust.
This is one of the most fascinating reframes I've come across in these sources. Culturally, we view lust through a very narrow lens. It's purely biological. It's just an overwhelming physical desire for someone else's body. But there's a much deeper psychological layer here. Lust is frequently a dashboard warning light.
An indicator of a systemic deficit elsewhere in the emotional engine.
Exactly. When you find yourself completely consumed by lust, when you are obsessively swiping on apps or making poor, impulsive decisions just to secure physical attention, it's very rarely just about a high sex drive. It is almost always a blinding, flashing warning light indicating a severe lack of intimacy in your life.
And we must define intimacy correctly here because it is not synonymous with sex.
Right. Intimacy is the feeling of being truly known. It's feeling understood, grounded, and emotionally safe. You can experience profound, life-sustaining intimacy sitting on a couch with your best friend of 20 years.
Absolutely.
You can experience it in a quiet moment of vulnerability with a family member. You can even experience it in deep, honest self-reflection.
But when we lack that core foundation of feeling known, when we feel isolated, disconnected, or invisible in our daily lives, the brain starts scrambling for a substitute. And physical lust is the easiest, most readily available counterfeit for true intimacy.
Because for those 20 minutes or that one evening, you feel desire. You feel like the absolute center of someone's universe. The physical proximity mimics emotional closeness. But it is a sugar rush. It's putting a tiny bandage on a massive, gaping psychological wound.
It really is.
You address the symptom, the craving to be touched, while completely ignoring the disease, which is the crushing loneliness of not being understood by anyone, including yourself.
It delays the actual healing process. Instead of doing the difficult, slow work of cultivating genuine friendships, repairing family dynamics, or sitting with your own discomfort, you continuously chase the fleeting high of physical validation. And the void only grows larger.
It's a brutal cycle.
Yeah.
But let's zoom out. Let's say you navigate the maze. You stop people-pleasing. You figure out your weird, authentic self. You dodge the dark psychology manipulators. You walk away from the slot machine texts, and you actually find someone who is consistent, clear, and available.
The Holy Grail.
Right. Now you are standing at the base of the final mountain. How do you actually build and sustain a healthy relationship? What is the architecture of real love?
Constructing that architecture begins with clearing the site of toxic debris. We have to explicitly identify what love is not, primarily because our culture has done an alarmingly good job of romanticizing incredibly destructive behaviors.
The romanticization of red flags is a massive industry. Look at any blockbuster romance movie or popular fiction book. Let's talk about the big one, jealousy.
Oh, jealousy.
We are sold this narrative that jealousy is the ultimate proof of passion. Oh, he got into a fist fight because another guy looked at me. He just loves me so much.
Yeah.
Or she was screaming at me for talking to my coworker. Her love is just so intense.
It is a catastrophic misinterpretation of emotion. Jealousy is not a byproduct of love. It is a byproduct of possessiveness, deep-seated insecurity, and a fundamental fear of abandonment. When someone is intensely jealous, they are not protecting their relationship. They are protecting their own fragile ego. They are treating their partner as an extension of their own property rather than an autonomous human being.
And this manifests in behaviors that have somehow become normalized, like the absolute demand to check a partner's phone.
Let's unpack the psychological deficit driving that specific behavior, because it is rarely about the phone itself.
Right. People try to justify it as radical transparency. They say, well, if you have nothing to hide, why can't I read all your texts? It builds trust.
Which is completely backward. Demanding full access to a partner's digital life does not build trust. It is the ultimate expression of the absence of trust. A smartphone in the modern era is effectively an external hard drive for the human brain.
It really is.
It contains conversations with family members who may be sharing their own private struggles. It contains medical data, financial anxieties, unfiltered journal entries.
To demand unfettered access to that is an unjustifiable invasion of privacy. But why do people do it? Because they cannot tolerate uncertainty. They want a 100% ironclad guarantee that they will never be betrayed or made a fool of, so they try to establish total surveillance. But the tragic irony is that you cannot surveil someone into being faithful. You just build a prison, and eventually the prisoner will resent the warden.
Exactly. It is an anxiety management strategy that destroys the very connection it is trying to protect. True trust is the ability to tolerate the uncertainty of another person's freedom.
That is profound. Trust is the ability to tolerate the uncertainty of another person's freedom. And that ties into another subtle, incredibly pervasive toxic trait, the weaponization of humor. It's just a joke defense.
Covert emotional abuse masquerading as banter.
We see this all the time. Imagine you are in the kitchen and you tell your partner, very vulnerably, I think I want to take a writing class. I've always dreamed of writing a novel.
Yeah.
And their immediate response is to burst out laughing. A novel. You can barely write a grocery list without spell check. Who is going to read your book? Our cat. And when your face falls, when you clearly look hurt, they immediately pivot and say, "Oh my God, relax. You're so sensitive. It was just a joke."
It is a calculated degradation of self-esteem. The joke serves a specific purpose. It keeps the partner small, insecure, and dependent. If you believe your dreams are foolish, you won't pursue them. If you don't pursue them, you won't grow. And if you don't grow, you won't outgrow the partner who is terrified of losing you.
A partner should be the ultimate safe harbor for your ambitions, not a sniper taking shots at your confidence from behind a laugh track. All of these toxic behaviors, the jealousy, the surveillance, the belittling, they often stem from a single, flawed, foundational belief about what a relationship is supposed to be.
The mythological concept of completion.
Yes, the half-orange myth, the soulmate trope, the idea that we are all wandering the earth as these incomplete, jagged halves, frantically searching for the exact person who fits our missing pieces and finally makes us whole.
It is a beautifully poetic idea that practically guarantees relationship failure.
Let's tear that down. Because when you enter a relationship believing that you are only a half, you are setting a trap for both yourself and your partner. You are placing an impossible, crushing burden on another human being. You are effectively saying, "Here is my life. It is your job to fix my insecurities, regulate my anxiety, and be the sole source of my happiness. Complete me."
That is the exact blueprint for severe codependency. A healthy individual is not a half orange. You must do the work to become a complete, entirely self-sufficient whole orange.
I love that visual. You are a whole orange, and your goal is to find another completely whole, independently happy orange, so the two of you can sit side by side in the same fruit bowl and enjoy the sunlight together.
Exactly. You choose to share your life. You do not rely on them to supply your life force. When two whole people come together, the relationship operates from a place of abundance rather than deficit. You are not using each other as emotional spackle to fill in the cracks of your own trauma.
And this is a massive, but even when two perfectly whole, emotionally intelligent oranges get into a relationship, they're still going to bruise each other. And we need to be incredibly realistic about this, because there is a phase in every long-term relationship that absolutely terrifies people. It's the friction phase.
The inevitable devaluation of the honeymoon period.
Right, for the first 6 months, everything is magic. Neurochemicals are flooding your brain, their annoying habits are cute, you never fight. And then the chemicals stabilize. Reality sets in. You merge your lives, you share a bathroom, you deal with financial stress, and suddenly you hit a phase where it feels like all you do is argue. Every minor disagreement about how to load the dishwasher turns into a philosophical debate about respect. The tension is thick, you feel distant, and you start panicking.
And this is the precise inflection point where the majority of relationships fracture. Because society has sold us the lie that if it's meant to be, it will be easy.
Yes. People hit the fighting stage and immediately conclude, well, magic is gone, we must be incompatible, time to break up and find someone new.
But the reality of deep, enduring connection is entirely counterintuitive to that. The friction isn't a sign that the relationship is failing. The friction is the actual crucible where real love is forged. Love is not the easy, laughing days on vacation. Anyone can do that. Love is the conscious, gritty, daily choice to push through the deeply uncomfortable, frustrating, rocky paths together.
Healthy couples aren't the mythological unicorns who never raise their voices or never disagree. Healthy couples are simply two people who have learned the precise mechanics of communicating through the anger without turning the other person into the enemy.
It is about maintaining the alliance even when you are furious.
Okay, let's get tactical here, because this is where the rubber meets the road. If communication is the ultimate key to surviving the friction phase, how do you actually do it? Let's use a jealousy example from earlier. We established that demanding access to a phone or controlling who they talk to is toxic. But what if you legitimately feel a spike of insecurity? What if your partner starts hanging out with a new coworker and your anxiety just flares up? How do you communicate that real, painful feeling without becoming the controlling, toxic partner we just condemned?
It requires a masterclass in the difference between a directive and a disclosure. This is the pivot point of healthy conflict resolution.
A directive versus a disclosure. Break that down.
A directive is an attempt to manage your internal anxiety by controlling your partner's external environment. The toxic approach sounds like this. You cannot go to happy hour with that coworker anymore because it makes me jealous and disrespects our relationship.
Right, that's the cage.
Yeah.
You are making your emotion their absolute responsibility to fix.
Precisely. You are victimizing yourself and demanding they shrink their life to accommodate your insecurity. A disclosure, on the other hand, is an exercise in radical vulnerability and ownership. A healthy approach sounds like this. Hey, I need to talk to you about something I'm struggling with. When you spend a lot of time with that new coworker, my anxiety spikes and I start feeling really insecure. I know this is my own internal issue, and I'm not asking you to stop seeing them. I just wanted to communicate where my head is at so you understand why I might be acting a little quiet, and so we can work through this feeling together.
That is a staggering difference in approach. I am feeling this, let's navigate it together, versus you are making me feel this, so you have to change.
It shifts the entire architecture of the conversation. You are no longer opponents fighting over a boundary. You are teammates sitting on the same side of the table, looking at a problem with the insecurity that is sitting in the middle. You are inviting them into your emotional experience rather than punishing them for it.
And when you communicate like that, you give your partner the opportunity to step up and reassure you, rather than forcing them to go on the defensive. That level of collaborative communication is the absolute bedrock of a relationship that can endure the decades. We have covered an immense amount of ground today, and I want to trace the map of this journey before we wrap up. We started in the deepest part of the self. We learned that the foundation of any connection begins with dismantling the exhaustion of the social chameleon. It requires the immense courage to stop people-pleasing, to stop being the unbreakable, strong friend, and to fiercely embrace your own quiet, unapologetic weirdness.
Because without an authentic self, you have nothing real to offer a partner.
Exactly. Then, we waded into the absolute chaos of modern dating. We realized we have to completely ignore the algorithmic noise, the dark psychology, the manipulation tactics, the toxic debates over who pays for dinner. We have to simplify the process. Dating is just making friends, and rejection is simply a highly efficient filter for incompatibility.
It is the algorithm of human connection working to protect your time.
From there, we explored the agonizing territory of asymmetry, the slot machine dynamics of mixed signals. We learned that inconsistency is clarity, that holding on to a broken bond just to preserve a habit is self-destructive, and that lust is often just a desperate warning light for a lack of genuine intimacy.
We must do the hard work of being truly known rather than settling for being temporarily desired.
And finally, we looked at the architecture of real, sustaining love. We tore down the romanticization of jealousy and control. We retired the myth of the half-orange, realizing we must be whole before we can merge. And we recognize that the friction, the arguments, the messy reality of two humans colliding isn't the end of the love story. It's the place where the real work begins, using disclosure instead of directives.
It is a lifelong practice of unlearning the toxic scripts society hands us and replacing them with radical, collaborative honesty.
It is the hardest work we will ever do, but it is the only work that truly matters. And before we let you go, there is one final, profound thought drawn from our exploration today. It's an idea that puts everything we've discussed into a breathtaking cosmic perspective.
I want you to think about the sheer mathematical improbability of your own existence. Consider the timeline of human history. You are the direct, unbroken genetic and emotional result of thousands upon thousands of generations. Through famines, through wars, through the Ice Age, through the absolute chaos of history, thousands of complete strangers managed to find each other. They navigated their own versions of mixed signals, they overcame their own insecurities, they connected, and they chose love.
Love literally brought you here.
Your very existence, sitting here right now, listening to this, is the literal biological proof of thousands of successful, against all odds connections. You are the climax of an ancient chain of love stories. So, if history itself proves that connection is that resilient, why do you doubt your own ability to be loved exactly as you are? The next time you are sitting there at 2 a.m. feeling entirely unlovable or invisible or too weird for the world, I want you to remember that you are the living legacy of humanity's absolute refusal to be alone.
That thought shifts the gravity in the room every single time. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Take a deep breath. Stop trying to be the copy of copy. Embrace your weirdness. Text your friends back. And when you are out there trying to build something real and you realize the instruction manual is completely missing, don't panic. You don't need a blueprint to build something beautiful. You just need the courage to figure out where the pieces go. Together, we'll catch you next time.